Have you ever wanted to be unbreakable? To stand in the middle of chaos and remain whole? To face rejection, criticism, and loss without your very essence crumbling into dust? What if I told you that every moment of pain you've ever experienced wasn't actually caused by what happened to you, but by a fundamental misunderstanding of what you truly are? Right now, as you're listening to these words, millions of people around the world are experiencing heartbreak, rejection, criticism, loss. And in this very moment, a small number of them are discovering something that will change their lives forever, that they are not what they thought they were, and that what they truly are cannot be broken. Most people spend their entire lives building walls, thinking that if they just get thick enough skin, if they just become cold enough, distant enough, nothing will ever hurt them again. But here's the profound irony that we're going to explore today. This very attempt to become unbreakable is what makes us most fragile. Today, we're going to shatter everything you think you know about resilience, strength, and what it means to be truly invulnerable. And in that shattering, you might just discover the unshakable mountain that has always existed at the core of your being. But I need to warn you, what we're about to explore might disturb everything you believe about yourself. Are you ready for that? Are you ready to question the very foundation of who you think you are? Let's start with the greatest lie we tell ourselves about strength. Have you ever met someone who seems completely untouchable? The person who walks through life with an emotional armor so thick that nothing seems to penetrate. We look at them with a mixture of admiration and envy. How do they do it, we wonder? How do they not let anything get to them? We call this resilience. We call this strength. We call this being emotionally intelligent. But what if I told you this is actually the most sophisticated form of fragility? What if this apparent invulnerability is just vulnerability wearing a very convincing mask? Think about this for a moment. When you build walls around your heart, when you close yourself off from feeling, when you train yourself not to care, what are you actually doing? You're not becoming strong, you're becoming like a stone. And here's the thing about stones. They appear solid. They seem unbreakable. But the moment they encounter a force greater than their resistance, they shatter completely. Have you ever wondered why the strongest seeming people sometimes have the most dramatic breakdowns? Why the person who never lets anything bother them suddenly crumbles over something that seems small? It's because their strength was an illusion built on resistance, not resilience. They were stones pretending to be mountains. The cold person, the distant person, the one who doesn't care. They are not mountains. They are stones. And stones break. They break because their entire strategy is based on avoiding, on resisting, on not feeling. But life has a way of finding the cracks in every wall we build. So why do we choose this counterfeit strength? Why do we choose coldness over openness? Because deep down, we know we're afraid. We're terrified that if we let life touch us, if we remain open and vulnerable, we'll be destroyed. This fear reveals something profound about our fundamental misunderstanding of what we are and what can actually be hurt. So let me paint you a completely different picture of what real strength looks like. Forget everything you think you know about being tough, about being resilient, about being unbreakable. Instead, imagine a mountain, not a stone, but a mountain. Vast, ancient, rooted deep in the earth, reaching high into the sky. Now, what happens when storms rage against this mountain? Does it close itself off? Does it build walls? Does it resist? Does it fight back? Does it become cold and distant to protect itself? Watch carefully. The mountain does none of these things. The winds howl with the fury of 1,000 voices. The rain pours like the tears of the world. Lightning strikes with the anger of the gods, and the mountain simply remains. But here's what's fascinating. The mountain doesn't remain by resisting. It doesn't stay strong by fighting. It doesn't endure by building walls. It remains because it knows something the stone doesn't know. It knows something that we've forgotten in our desperate attempts to protect ourselves. It knows what it truly is. The mountain doesn't take the storm personally. Think about this deeply. It doesn't create stories about why the storm is attacking it. It doesn't wonder what it did wrong to deserve such weather. It doesn't blame itself or blame the storm. It doesn't make the storm's existence mean anything about its own worth or value. The mountain understands something we've forgotten in our human experience. The storm is not personal, and neither is the pain. The storm is just the storm. The rain is just the rain. The wind is just the wind. And what we call pain is often just life being life, without any personal vendetta against us. But here's where it gets really interesting, where this metaphor becomes a doorway to freedom. What if you've been misidentifying what you are your entire life? What if you've been living thinking you're the storm, or thinking you're something fragile that needs to hide from the storm, when in truth, you are the mountain itself? Let's pause here and ask the question that changes everything. Who are you, really? Not your name, not your job, not your relationships, not your history. Strip away every label, every role, every story you tell about yourself. What remains? Most people never ask this question seriously. They live their entire lives identified with their thoughts, their emotions, their roles, their past, their future projections. But what if all of that is just clothing you're wearing? What if all of that is just the storm system and you are the mountain underneath? When someone criticizes you, what exactly is being criticized? When someone rejects you, what exactly is being rejected? Is it you, or is it an idea about you? Is it your essence, or is it a story about your essence? Is it the mountain, or is it just the weather patterns around the mountain? This is where most people get confused. They think they are their thoughts. So when their thoughts are criticized, they feel attacked. They think they are their emotions. So when their emotions are invalidated, they feel destroyed. They think they are their roles. So when their performance is questioned, they feel worthless. But what if you're not any of those things? What if you're the awareness that observes thoughts, not the thoughts themselves? What if you're the space in which emotions arise and pass, not the emotions themselves? What if you're the consciousness that plays roles, not the roles themselves? Now we're going to dive deep into the mechanics of suffering, because once you understand this, everything changes. Have you ever noticed that two people can experience the exact same event, yet one emerges unscathed, while the other is completely devastated? The event didn't choose who to hurt, so what made the difference? Let me tell you something that might completely revolutionize your understanding of pain. It's never the event that causes suffering. Never. It's the story we tell ourselves about the event. It's the meaning we assign, the interpretation we create, the narrative we construct around what happened. The fact itself is completely neutral. Someone says no to you, that's just a sound, just a movement of air, just energy moving through space. But watch what your mind does with that simple no. This means I'm not good enough. This means I'll never find love. This means I'm fundamentally flawed. This means I'm destined to be alone. This means there's something wrong with me that everyone can see but me. Do you see what happened there? The pain isn't in the no. It's in the elaborate story the no triggered. The suffering isn't in the rejection. It's in what you made the rejection mean about you, about your future, about your worth, about your possibilities. But what if you could experience the stuck no without the story? What if you could hear criticism without making it mean anything about your fundamental worth? What if you could face rejection without constructing an entire narrative about what it says about your future? This isn't about becoming cold or indifferent. This isn't about not caring. This is about becoming like the mountain which receives all weather without taking any of it personally, without making it mean anything about its own nature or worth. The mountain doesn't resist the storm, but it also doesn't absorb the storm's energy and make it part of its identity. The storm comes, the storm goes, the mountain remains. Can you feel the profound freedom in this? Can you sense what it would be like to live this way? Now we reach our first major revelation, and it might disturb you more than you expect. What hurts when you're criticized, rejected, or attacked isn't actually you. It's your ego, that intricate collection of stories, roles, identities, and images you've been carrying around your entire life, thinking it was who you are. But let me ask you something that might blow your mind. If you are not your thoughts, and you're not because you can observe them, and you are not your emotions, and you're not because you can witness them come and go, and you are not your roles, and you're not because you can change them, then what exactly is being threatened when someone attacks you? The ego is like a mask we've worn for so long we've forgotten it's not our face. We've become so identified with this mask that when someone attacks it, we feel like they're attacking our very essence. But think about this. If someone insults a costume you're wearing, are they insulting you, or are they insulting fabric and thread? The mountain doesn't wear a mask. The mountain doesn't have an image to protect or a reputation to maintain. It doesn't have a story about itself that needs defending. It simply is, And its being is unassailable because it's not based on anything external, anything changeable, anything that can be threatened. Here's what happens when you realize that what's being hurt is just a costume you're wearing, not who you actually are. The costume can be criticized, mocked, torn, completely destroyed, and you remain completely untouched. Because you are not the costume, you are the one wearing it. And more than that, you are the one who can choose to take it off at any moment. But here's the beautiful paradox that changes everything. The moment you stop identifying with the mask, it becomes impossible to hurt you through it. Try to insult someone who knows they're not what you're insulting. You'll find it's like trying to make a mountain angry by yelling at its shadow. When someone criticizes your work, and you know you are not your work, where is the sting? When someone rejects your advances, and you know you are not your desires, where is the devastation? When someone questions your beliefs, and you know you are not your beliefs, where is the threat? Let's go deeper into this mystery of attachment, because this is where true freedom lives. Every moment of suffering in your life can be traced back to a moment of attachment, a moment when you confused what you are with what you have, what you do, what you think, what you feel, or what others think of you. Watch this carefully in your own experience. When do you suffer? Is it when life happens, or is it when life doesn't match your attachment to how you think it should be? Is it when people are themselves, or is it when people don't conform to your attachment to how you think they should behave? Here's a radical thought. What if nothing in life is personal? What if every rejection, every criticism, every loss is just life being life, just people being people, just the universe expressing itself exactly as it does, without any personal vendetta against you? What if the person who rejected you wasn't making a statement about your worth, but simply expressing their own preferences, their own needs, their own journey? What if the person who criticized you wasn't attacking your essence, but simply sharing their own perspective, their own limitations, their own conditioning? The mountain receives all weather as simply weather. It doesn't take the rain personally. It doesn't wonder why the wind chose it to blow against. It doesn't create elaborate stories about what the storm means about its character or its future. It receives what comes without resistance and without attachment to what comes. Now we're going to go even deeper, to a place where most people are afraid to look, because this is where the real transformation happens. What if I told you that every rejection you've ever experienced, every criticism that's ever stung, every moment of pain that's ever brought you to your knees, what if all of it was actually life trying to show you something profound about freedom? What if every person who's ever rejected you was, unknowingly, offering you the most precious gift possible? What if every person who's ever criticized you was, without realizing it, pointing you toward the most profound liberation you could ever experience? The gift is this: they're showing you exactly where you're still attached, where you're still clinging, where you still believe that your worth, your value, your very existence depends on external validation. Every rejection is a mirror reflecting back the places where you've made yourself dependent on others for your sense of self. Think about this deeply. If someone rejects you and it destroys you, what does that tell you about where you've been seeking your identity? If criticism devastates you, what does that reveal about how much of your self-worth you've placed in others' opinions? If loss breaks you, what does that show you about how much of your sense of security you've invested in things that are temporary? The pain is not punishment, it's information. It's life saying, look here, you're still not free. Look here, you're still making your peace dependent on external circumstances. Look here, you're still confusing what you are with what you have or what you do or what others think of you. The mountain doesn't need the storm to validate its existence. It doesn't need perfect weather to feel worthy. It doesn't need the sun to always shine to know its value. It doesn't crumble when the storm passes without acknowledgement or appreciation. Its being is self-sustaining, self-evident, complete in itself. And so are you, man, when you remember what you truly are. Every criticism becomes a teacher pointing you back to your own sufficiency. Every rejection becomes a liberator, freeing you from the exhausting need to be accepted by everyone. Every loss becomes a revealer, showing you what was never really yours to begin with. Can you see the gift in this? Can you feel how every wound has been secretly guiding you toward invincibility? Not the brittle invincibility of the stone, but the true invincibility of the mountain that knows what it is. But here's where this gets really interesting, where everything you think you know about strength gets turned upside down. The mountain, in all its unshakable strength, is completely vulnerable. It doesn't hide from the storm. It doesn't build defenses. It doesn't close itself off. It stands completely open, completely exposed, receiving everything that comes. This is the greatest paradox of true strength. It looks like vulnerability. It looks like openness. It looks like sensitivity. The mountain doesn't try to be hard. It's so secure in what it is that it can afford to be completely soft, completely receptive, completely present to whatever arises. Have you ever met someone who was so secure in themselves that they could receive criticism without defending, rejection without attacking back, loss without closing their heart? Have you ever encountered someone so rooted in their own being that they could remain open even in the face of pain? This is what real invincibility looks like. Not the armor of the stone, but the openness of the mountain. Not the hardness that resists, but the depth that receives everything and is moved by nothing. Not the coldness that protects, but the warmth that includes everything without being diminished by anything. Now let's explore what happens when you truly understand that you are not what you think you are. When you realize that you are not your thoughts, your emotions, your roles, your history, your future projections. When you discover that you are the awareness in which all of these appear and disappear like clouds in the sky, something extraordinary happens. You become free to play with these identities without being imprisoned by them. You can have thoughts without being your thoughts. You can feel emotions without being your emotions. You can play roles without being your roles. You can have experiences without being your experiences. Imagine the freedom of this. You can be completely committed to your work without your worth depending on your success. You can love completely without your peace depending on being loved back. You can create fully without your identity depending on how your creation is received. This doesn't make you less engaged with life. It makes you more engaged. This doesn't make you care less. It makes you capable of caring more without attachment to outcomes. This doesn't make you passive. It makes you capable of action without being enslaved by results. And now we arrive at the ultimate revelation, the one that changes absolutely everything. The one that might be the most liberating thing you've ever heard. When you stop grasping at roles, when you stop clinging to identities, when you stop needing to be anything other than what you are in this moment. Nobody can hurt you, not because you've become cold, not because you've built walls, not because you've numbed yourself, but because there's literally nothing left to attack. Try to insult empty space. It's impossible. Try to reject the sky. It can't be done. Try to criticize the silence between thoughts, so there's nothing there to wound. Try to break pure awareness. You'll find there's nothing solid to shatter. This is what you discover when you stop being the character in the story and realize you are the awareness in which all stories appear and disappear. You are not the actor on the stage. You are the stage itself. You are not the movie. You are the screen on which all movies are projected. When someone tries to hurt you, they're actually trying to hurt a story about you, an image of you, a role you're playing, a character you're portraying. But if you're not holding on to that story, if you're not attached to that image, if you're not identified with that role, if you're not believing in that character, what is there to hurt? It's like trying to wound a reflection in water by attacking the water. It's like trying to break a dream by hitting the pillow. It's like trying to capture the wind by building a net. The very attempt reveals a fundamental misunderstanding of what you're dealing with. And here's the beautiful part. This doesn't make you indifferent, it makes you infinitely compassionate. This doesn't make you unfeeling, it makes you capable of feeling everything without being destroyed by anything. This doesn't make you weak, it makes you unbreakable. Not because you resist, but because there's nothing there that can be broken. You can feel someone's pain without making it your identity. You can witness someone's anger without absorbing it into your story. You can experience rejection without letting it define your worth. You can face criticism without allowing it to shake your foundation. But let's go even deeper into this mystery, because understanding this will free you from the last chains of suffering. You are both the mountain and the space in which the mountain appears. You are both the wave and the ocean. You are both the character and the awareness playing the character. In your daily life, you can fully engage with being human, feeling emotions, pursuing goals, forming relationships, creating, loving, expressing. while simultaneously knowing that none of this is ultimately who you are. You can play the game of life completely while knowing it's a game. This is the ultimate freedom, to be completely involved and completely detached simultaneously, to care deeply and remain unattached to outcomes, to love fully without needing to be loved back, to create passionately without needing validation, to live completely without grasping at life. The mountain doesn't reject the storm, but it also doesn't identify with the storm. It doesn't resist the weather, but it also doesn't become the weather. It's completely present to everything that arises, completely open to all experience, and completely unshaken by any of it. So how do you discover this unshakable mountain within yourself? How do you recognize what you've always been, but have forgotten? The beautiful irony is that there's nothing you need to do to become what you already are. There's nowhere you need to go to find what you've never lost. There's nothing you need to achieve to be what you've always been. The path is simply recognition. It's the recognition that the thoughts you think you are just weather patterns passing through the sky of awareness. It's the recognition that the emotions you think define you are just waves on the ocean of being. It's the recognition that the roles you think you need are just costumes worn by the one who needs no costume. Every moment offers you this recognition. Every experience of pain is an invitation to ask, what in me believes it can be hurt? Every experience of fear is an invitation to inquire, what in me believes it can be threatened? Every experience of anger is an invitation to discover, what in me believes it can be violated? And in that inquiry, in that questioning, in that looking, you might discover that what you thought could be hurt was never real to begin with. You might find that what you thought could be threatened was just a story. You might realize that what you thought could be violated was just an image. So what does it mean to live as the mountain? It means you can receive all of life's experiences without resistance and without attachment. It means you can feel deeply without being destroyed. It means you can love completely without grasping. It means you can create freely without attachment to outcomes. When someone criticizes your work, you can hear their perspective without making it mean anything about your worth. When someone rejects your love, you can feel the disappointment without making it mean anything about your lovability. When someone questions your choices, you can consider their input without making it mean anything about your wisdom. You become like water, soft enough to yield, strong enough to persist, flexible enough to flow around obstacles, powerful enough to carve canyons. You become like space, vast enough to contain everything, empty enough to be disturbed by nothing, present enough to be available to all. So here we are, at the end of our journey together, and perhaps at the beginning of your real journey home to yourself. You came here wanting to be unbreakable, and now you discover something far more beautiful. You already are. You always have been. You couldn't be anything else. The breaking, the pain, the suffering, the devastation you thought you experienced, it was all happening to the stories you told yourself about who you are, not to who you actually are. It was all happening to the costume, not to the one wearing the costume. It was all happening to the character, not to the awareness playing the character. You are not the winds that howl with criticism. You are the vast space through which all winds blow. You are not the rain that pours with rejection. You are the openness that receives all rain. You are not the lightning that strikes with judgment. You are the sky that remains untouched by every storm. You are the mountain that remains, ancient and eternal, witnessing it all with perfect equanimity, touched by everything and moved by nothing, present to all experience and identified with none of it. The next time life brings you a storm, and it will, because that's what life does, that's how life loves you, that's how life shows you who you really are. Remember this moment. Remember that you have a choice. You can be the stone that fights the storm and eventually breaks, or you can be the mountain that receives the storm with grace, knowing that storms are temporary, but mountains are eternal. You are not fragile. You never were. You are not something that needs protecting from life. You are life itself, expressing itself as the unique constellation of experiences you call your life. You are not the story. You are the space in which all stories arise and dissolve. You are not the dream. You are the dreamer. You are not the mountain. You are the mountain. So I leave you not with answers, but with the most important question you will ever live. Are you ready to stop being stone and start being the mountain? Are you ready to stop defending what was never real and start resting in what can never be touched? Are you ready to stop seeking invincibility and start recognizing that you are invincibility itself? Are you ready to discover what it means to be truly, unshakably, magnificently unbreakable? Not because you resist life, but because you are life. Not because you fight storms, but because you are the eternal stillness in which all storms come and go. The mountain doesn't advertise its strength. It doesn't need to prove its permanence. It doesn't require validation for its existence. It simply is, and its being is so complete, so self-evident, so unquestionable that it needs nothing from anyone or anything. This is what you are. This is what you have always been. This is what you will always be, whether you recognize it or not. The mountain is patient. It has waited for you all your life, through every storm, through every season of forgetting. It will wait a little longer. If this resonated with you, if something in these words stirred the mountain within you awake, if you felt even a glimpse of the unshakable being that you are, I invite you to join our community of seekers, our family of mountains, by subscribing to this channel. Hit that like button if you're ready to stop being stone and start being the mountain you've always been. Because this journey to unshakable being, this remembering of what we truly are, this recognition of our indestructible nature, it's not a journey we take alone. We are mountains, recognizing mountains, storms, witnessing storms, awareness, celebrating awareness. Until we meet again in the space of knowing, remember this: you are not the storm that rages. You are not even in the storm. You are the vast, eternal, unshakable presence in which all storms come and go, the mountain that remains when everything else passes away, the being that cannot be broken because it was never separate to begin with. Rest in that. Be that. You are that.